What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name's Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey on a lovely Wednesday evening, which can only mean one thing. It's time for your dose of weekly college knowledge. Yes, this is the college football podcast, full yellow jacket, and I am incredibly proud of that one. Ryan, we have college football back again. Week 0 has been and gone. And I mean, if that is any indicator of what this season is going to be, beware the favorites, beware the giants. The underdogs are out to take blood this year.
Yep. Week zero's been come and gone, and yeah, it did not disappoint. It's already caused some upsets, which will have ripples probably throughout the season now. Like I say, that there was a big upset on day one, and that could have big, like I say, uh effects later on in the season. They could look back at this game and think what could have been. So yeah, but yeah, there's some very interesting games. A lot of them pretty close as well. A lot of one-score games, which was good to see. Not many one-sided, which is always good.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, a lot of vast underdogs really fighting and making life difficult for their bigger opponents, which is say you want to see because a lot of the time in the non-con schedules, which what a lot of these are, you sometimes get a lot of one-handed blowovers. But this was a fantastic week. We are going to talk all about it, and we are also going to take a look ahead to week 1 when the full Royal Rumble starts. All 133 teams in the FBS get involved, and the countless numbers of teams down in the FCS and everywhere else and high school. Everything is going on right now. We're going to go through all that today. If as always, any of you watching along, if you have any questions as we go, anything you want to point out, whatever, I will be in the comments, as we go along. So hope you are all well. Let's just say hi to everyone. Brent DeWitt is in the building. He goes, I bet Ash did not come up with that title. No, he didn't. I did. I don't know if he knows about it yet, but it's probably gonna. I thought I was very clever with that. Matthew Turner has never watched the film before, so he didn't get the joke, but hopefully everybody else did. Lisa De Lorenzo's in the building as well. Hope you are doing well. I will get into Twitch at some point as well. So if you're in Twitch, hang fire and I will be with you there. Let's just get all the housekeeping out of the way, because after a long off season, we just want to talk some college ball. So Roar Lions UK Discord, if you want in, let us know. We will fire you a link for that. Main podcast. We were live yesterday, me and Matt, as the 53-man rosters were announced for the season. And obviously today, practice squads are getting formed, trades have been made, players have been bought. We won't be covering that at the minute. We're on the college stuff, but yeah, there's a lot going on in Lions World at the moment. Don't forget to like and sub to everything, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it and it really helps us. Don't forget about Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's project to bring together the best in Lions content creators into one big community. You can see me on the shows there on Tuesdays. We're affiliated on Twitch. We're monetized on YouTube. We've got tip jars. So if you want to help us that way, great. But we just love having you in chatting with us, especially when it comes to college ball. And don't forget, we've got a feedback form as well. So fill that in if there's anything you want to see on the show. So I'll just put it in the comments, whichever you prefer. Right. Let's quickly get on with it. A little bit of news to go through first before we dive down into the football side of things. Realignment issues. There was one this week, Ryan. The Big 12, fresh from snagging at least a third of the Pac-12, is looking to expand even further with the addition of one of the two remaining true independents, and that is the University of Connecticut Huskies, who are the target. The target for them is for the football team to move into the conference in 2031, so a little bit of a way till they get there. But all other sports, most noticeably UConn's prestigious basketball program, moving over as soon as 2026. The move is currently pending Big 12 president's approval. And as we talked about during the independence preview, right, this seems to be the age where they're all going to vanish now. And UConn, obviously Notre Dame is still the big fish, but UConn was the one nobody knew about. And the Big 12 feels like that's going to be their home going forward.
Yeah, I know teams in the leagues in the past have looked at UConn and they've always said like, no, all our sports won't move. That's kind of been a sticking point. And it still feels like the case where everyone wants the basketball team and you kind of have to take everyone with them, or they're a package, or you can have everyone, but you can't have the basketball team because, like I said, the Huskies are pretty good at that level. So yeah, they don't really. Well, the football team are fun. They're good to have, and it's a good fan base, but they probably don't really want them. They probably just want everything that comes with it. But yeah, it's a package deal, or like say they want to keep it separate. But it's a good addition. Like I say, as a brand, as a collective sports unit, it would be a good pickup for them. And yeah, that basically means the last real dominoes now are falling. Like I
Yeah,
say,
and
I just, for me, not Notre Dame, they're just huge. I just don't get how currently to this day no one has yet snagged them.
no, well, they've had their own deals and
It's gonna take a
everything.
monumental amount of money. But
Yeah.
yeah, it feels inevitable. Like say, they can't hold it off much longer, surely.
Especially with TV deals getting bigger and conferences having ammunition to go get them potentially with all the money that they're getting. So yeah, the age of the independents does seem to be over. A quick aside, Grandizer asks where you get your t-shirt from. He says it's very sharp.
I think this was a gift, just a long sleeve polo. I've been in the office today, and well, I didn't bother to change, so this is standard smart casual work attire.
There you go, then. That's a gift for him there, Grandizer. Brent goes, now I'll be rooting for Georgia Tech the rest of the year, along with Tulane and, of course, the defending national champion Wolverines. Notice he didn't mention the Army Black Knights in there. Wow, that's a real betrayal there, Brent. Not even in your top three teams that you're going to watch this year. Well, maybe just become an Air Force Falcon like the rest of us. That's the way to go. And then in terms of other little bits of news, so another very normal week for Colorado. Ryan, quiet, nothing going on there. Just a couple of things. They've been, well, I don't know, caught, but they've gone to Saudi Arabia trying to drum up money for their NIL campaign, trying to tap into the oil barons out there, trying to get more money to get players into the program. And Dion has banned yet another reporter from their room, this time from the Denver Columnist, after taking offense at said reporter who used such terms to him as Planet Prime, Deposition Dion, and my favorite of the lot, the Bruce Lee of BS. It just feels like we're going to get to the end of the year, right? And there's going to be like one reporter in the room talking to him because everyone else has been banned. But it's just Colorado news is fun. Every week they do something to make you chuckle.
You'd have thought reporters by now would probably learn to stop poking the bear because, yeah, he can remove your credentials and you will miss out on a gold mine if you're not in the room. So it's not worth losing your job or your livelihood or work over, like you say. But yeah, and the whole NIL should not be international. Like I say, they should be no cross. It shouldn't be across continents. Like you say, it's going to get very messy when you got like say certain brands because then unfortunately like say, we're going to get politics in it soon, aren't we? Like say, and that is very much taken over the British football game. It's a political minefield now with like say lots of Middle East investment. It'd be nice if we could get that out of other sports, but unfortunately that is impossible and it will work its way in. If it does help get players. There must be football players in the Middle East. Like say if they can get them over here and like say get them on teams and get good for them. But yeah, some unscrupulous so and so's will likely use this to their disadvantage. Yeah, we'll see some sort of dodgy sponsorship pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's maybe like NIL going international. That is the latest twist in the tail of name, image, and likeness. And the last bit of news I wanted to go through, kind of poignant because we're about to go into all the review stuff. The shocks and the big teams getting beaten and everything was not just limited to college football this weekend, but we never talk about high school football here, rightly so, because college football is huge in itself, and there's just not enough time in the day to talk about like the FCS, HBCUs, all that sort of stuff, and get a show in. But the upsets went all the way across this week. So in high school football, number three, IMG. Everyone will know who IMG is. Very prestigious high school academy. A lot of NFL players, future NFL players, come from there. They were beaten in their opener of the year by a little team from Tennessee, Corner Canyon. And then Bishop Gorman, who were the number two ranked team in the entire country, nearly got beaten by a Sicilian monk, or the school that he was named after, St. Thomas Aquinas, who were from Fort Lauderdale. But like this is just an epidemic of all proportion. Like everyone seems to be struggling this year, but the high schools produced some shock results this week.
Yeah, I was watching one of the games we'll talk about, and then when the stream ended, it went straight live to I don't know if it's the Jails. I think that's how the Bishop Gorman team's pronounced against the Raiders. So I did watch most of that half, and yeah, they rallied late at the end, but they were the number one team in the nation. Yeah, the Gorman Jails, like say out of Nevada, but no, they had to rally and come from two scores down to beat the Raiders. And like I said, St. Thomas Aquinas, didn't they were like ranked like fifth. Like I say, so it was probably one of the big power matchups. But yeah, high school football. I watch a lot of it where I kind of keep out of it. Usually, your Gormans, your St. John Bosco's, your Mater Days, they pretty much run the table. It's very rare they're upset or they're pushed that heavily because high school football is usually dominated by Florida, California, Texas, like Vegas, the big states, and then a lot of them, like say, kind of fall by the wayside. But yeah, some very interesting matchups and results in week one. Like I say, I think Ash put some stats in the chat. Like, I think they've produced like the most NFL players on current rosters right now. Like have come through IMG Florida or something. Like 37% of the league or something crazy. Either went there or was gonna go there. Like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous that.
Yeah, it is. I just thought it was notable given everything that happened in week one here. But yeah, the high schools, they're not immune from the upsets this year. But we are here to talk about college ball, not high school ball. So let us, without further ado, move into the week zero fixtures. And again, for anyone who is not familiar with week zero, basically that is the week given to teams who have to travel abroad to play during the year to give them an extra rest week. Obviously, we have an island game now, so those two teams get an extra bye week after coming over here. And then, of course, for teams who have to travel out to Hawaii, which in itself is basically a trip abroad because it's so far away from the US mainland. So they get to play a week early, so they get an extra bye in the season. And of course, you do have a few other fixtures knocking around as well, most noticeably the MEAC SWAC game, which we're going to talk about later, because that was a doozy. But, oh, Ryan, there's only one place for us to start. And we wished and wished and wished upon a star last year that the Florida State Seminoles would fall in a game, and they didn't, and they wrongfully got screwed by the football playoff committee into getting in. They should have got in. They were one of the best four teams in the country, but change is anew, and they traveled over to the Emerald Isle to start their ACC campaign. They were ranked number 10 in the country, coming up against Georgia Tech, and maybe one of the finest Irish games we've had so far. So this was just a good game up front. So from Florida State's point of view, dominant 4-minute drive to start the game. They were running the ball well. They were sprinkling in a few passes there with DJU, and it was all finished off by Lawrence Toafili with a 28-yard run when the sea just opened up for him. And then one of the most impressive plays of the game, Florida State were aggressive here. So they hit Georgia Tech with what is called the swinging gate for a 2-point conversion. So again, for those who don't know, the swinging gate, it's a formation with a lone center snap into a quarterback. He sometimes has a running back behind him, but he doesn't in this case. But instead of snapping the ball backwards towards, the QB as you would, the ball gets underhand tossed to a receiver out wide who is lining up behind a 6-man wall of blockers, in effect, an offensive line with an extra man, a jumbo package, and then you run it in to the end zone. And they were able to execute this perfectly and up 8-0 within the first 4 minutes, and you really started to fear for Georgia Tech, but they hit right back. So Haynes King finds Malik Rutherford a perfectly executed screen pass, which got them about 50 yards down to the Florida State 10. And then they worked their way down to the FSU 1, and they brought in their reserve quarterback, Zach Pyron, this big lanky so-and-so, the guy you kind of bring in for the quarterback sneaks. He comes in, QB keeper. Touchdown, Georgia Tech, a six-play, 79-yard drive retaliation from them. Really impressive. So FSU winning 8-7 at this point. Georgia Tech then come up with a turnover on down stop. Great tackle from their defensive back, Amari Harvey, on Lawrence Toafili, but they're unable to take advantage and they have to punt away as well. The next points, sorry, come 4 minutes into quarter two. Florida State kicker Ryan Fitzgerald, what a day for him, talking about kickers. He belted one through the posts from 52 yards away, made it look like a chip shot, which expanded Florida State's lead 11-7. But then we saw something that we've not seen happen against Florida State in some time. Georgia Tech started to take over in the trenches, and they came up with a grueling 14-play, 75-yard drive that lasted 8 minutes. And it's finished off by their star running back, Jamal Haynes. He gets scrummed over the line by his teammates, including Haynes King. It was a team effort there from the 1 yard line. Georgia Tech take the lead 14-11 with 3 minutes to go in the first half. And FSU make really slow going of it. Like they don't get down the field very quickly, and they end up with 1 second left on the clock, and they leave their kicker, Fitzgerald, with a 59-yard attempt to make it even going into the half. And he drills it with room to spare. He drills it. So kicks from 52 and 59 from the Florida State kicker, and he made them look easy. So you go into the half 14 apiece. You come out, Georgia Tech get the ball first. Jamal Haynes breaks off a 35-yard run on the first play of the half, but then defense begins to take over on both sides of the ball. There wasn't a single point scored in the third quarter. Maybe the highlight of that quarter was Florida State defensive back Edwin Joseph nearly killing a poor punt returner. He basically catches the ball, and within like a millisecond, he's just running through the air with a running pile driver, and it's a big hit. He did very well to hold on to the ball and not give it up. But Georgia Tech end the third quarter on the Florida State 2, thanks to a very impressive drive. Haynes King with a big impact run up the gut, took on tackles, scrummed his way all the way up to the Florida State 2. And then the first play of quarter four, Jamal Haynes runs it in for the touchdown from 2 yards out. 7-point lead for Georgia Tech. But Florida State are not done. They hit back. DJU has this big clutch 4th and 8. He finds Malik Benson, who gets all the way up to the Georgia Tech end zone. Big play from about 30 yards out on a 4th and 8, as I say, but he did really well. Roydell Williams, the Alabama transfer running back, finishes it off with 6.5 minutes to go in the game, and it's 21 apiece. But Georgia Tech, they're able to drive out the entire rest of the game, but with a minute left and in comfy field goal range, they botch a snap, which puts them quite far back, and they nearly lose the ball, but they're able to recover it. They do gain yardage on the penultimate play of the game, which leaves them a 44-yard attempt for kicker Aiden Burr, who had missed a field goal earlier in the game, and he's never had a walk-off field goal in his career. And he sneaks it inside the left-hand post. I had kittens watching this thing go in. And Georgia Tech, Ryan, walk off the Florida State Seminoles as over 12-point underdogs, 24-21. And now under Brent Key, Georgia Tech have played 5 ACC opponents who were ranked football teams. They have won every single game. The big game Yellow Jackets come out, walk off the Seminoles in Ireland.
Yeah, such an interesting game. Like I say, we've seen some good games in Ireland. We've seen some bad games. This one had a bit of everything. And like I say, it was a very fitting ending. One, it was almost a snap from disaster, and two, it was one at the death of the walk off. It felt quite. It was kind of like the fairy tale ending for Georgia Tech. Like they'd almost snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, the bad snap, but they recovered it. And then, like I say, the kicker to show, like I say, a brass pair between his legs that had already missed one to, like I say, make it clutch and sneak it in and walk off. Florida State definitely weren't as bad as people are making out. And I've seen a lot of blame thrown at the quarterback who didn't make really many mistakes. Like, it's pretty easy to see where they struggled. A team that is really good at running the ball in key situations struggled to run the ball. They didn't get a lot going on the ground in general, whereas Georgia Tech have now shown that in recent years they have evolved to a much more balanced offense. And we saw flashes of both of that, kind of the culmination of what they've been working on the last few years. It did come to fruition this week. And yeah, ACC teams that are ranked probably need to be a little bit more respectful now, or even more wary of Georgia Tech, or just try not play them if you can, like you say, because they're coming for you and they don't fear you anymore. So yeah, it was interesting.
It was funny because I was laughing at Ash for that, and then I realized that we at NC State have to go there this year, and then I'm like, uh-oh, I'm not really looking forward to that. But sort of the takeaways from this game, like, so for Georgia Tech, what was so surprising, and we said this, Florida State have been dominant. Their run game, their defensive line last year just smothered everybody. Even the likes of Clemson couldn't deal with it. Georgia Tech's trench warfare and aggression. So Florida State had 98 rushing yards on the day. 58 of them came on that first drive. So for 55 minutes, Georgia Tech's defense gave up 40 rushing yards to Florida State. DJU, I hear you, was not as bad as people said, but he went 12 of 14 for 96 in the first half. But you know his air yards per attempt minus zero point 0.1. So he was throwing a lot of screens. He was having to get the ball out quick. They were coming for him. And that offense, which you're so used to seeing dominating, couldn't get going. Look on the flip side for Georgia Tech. Jamal Haynes, he's their star running back, right? Absolute stud. 11 for 75 with two touchdowns at almost 7 yards per carry. Haynes King has 54 yards rushing as the quarterback. Chad Alexander, the backup, 7 for 41 at 6 yards per carry. Georgia Tech, 190 rush yards to Florida State's 98. And then you come to the defense, and that defensive line, there are two bona fide NFL draft picks on the FSU line as it stands. You've got a couple of sacks on the day, both off the edges, Kevin Harris, Joshua Robinson, but then their entire line, Romello Height, Jordan Vanderberg, Micaiah Scott, backed up by the starting linebackers, Kyle Efford, Trinelius Tatum, just absolutely bringing the pressure on the day. And 40 yards rushing in 55 minutes. You've seen how I've seen countless videos. I don't know if you've seen the ones I've put in the offensive line, manhandling guys, giving Haynes King time to throw. We don't see Florida State bullied like that ever, but GT bullied them on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, what has been such a key strength for his offensive line play in recent years. Like I say, giving the back space, opening holes for them, giving the quarterback time to operate and look further down the field. We didn't see any of that. Like I say, DJU had 1.5 seconds at times to get that ball out, which meant either throw it away incomplete or try check down to a running back. Like I said, it didn't matter what the receivers were doing open field. They could have been winning all their battles and getting free. There just was no time to step up into the pocket because even when the offensive line was doing a good job, it was collapsing eventually. Like I said, they were just doing their best to get it out. And that's full credit to, like I say, the GT defense. They're disciplined, keeping the edge, not letting him roll out because he can throw on the run when he wants to, but keeping him there in the pocket. And it's fine to give away those little players. They're like, if you want to slip the running back out and check down to us, that's fine because they've got the guys that can then turn, come downhill fast, and it can be for like a minimum or a limited gain. So they were happy enough to give away the small players and not worry about having to like give up chunk players. So yeah, they played the balance really well of bringing pressure, but don't sell the house and get caught out. They tread that line very carefully.
Yeah, and like I say, you get the aggression. You're going to give up a few big plays. Just before Roy Dale's touchdown, they gave up that 4th and 8 was a big one they gave up, but minimal compared to the plays they made. They were just so impressive. And the other guy who was very impressive, who I don't know, maybe we need to talk about a bit more. We have to talk surely about the quarterback. So, like DJ U's trying to find his redemption and that, but Haynes King went to GT last year. Big superstar Texas A&M guy didn't work out. He's had to drop down the pyramid a little to try and find his home, but we all remember him, right? He walked off Alabama for Texas A&M, one of their most famous wins under their, now departed head coach who underachieved for so many years, but he's gone to Georgia Tech, and like we say, this is a team that used to play the triple, used to be a bit antiquated there, but this is a team now who's playing for him. 11 of 16 for 146 yards, contributed 50 on the ground, most crucially, not a single turnover, and he made every play he needed to in the most clutch of times. Obviously, his running backs came in and that, but he's now got two huge giant killings to his name, and you've got to start to surely ask the question, is there a semblance of an NFL player in there? Because quite clearly he seems to have the talent and he will go under the radar in this process, but maybe there's just some hope for this kid yet because he's turning this GT team around.
Yeah, I think he's always had talent. Like you say, I feel like A&M, it wasn't set up. I just don't feel like it was. They were a running school, a defense school, weren't they? They never felt set up to have a quarterback that could come in there and show what they could do. In 1 year at GT, he has more completions, more passing yards, more touchdowns than 3 years at A&M. And this is a school, the Yellow Jackets, that didn't really throw the ball much because before that you had Jeff Sims, and honestly, he used to shit himself when he was asked to throw the ball. It terrified him. He just wanted to escape and run and make plays with his legs, and that's why they struggled. So they went out there and said, "Let's go get a passing quarterback that will stand in the cube pocket and deliver." But to do that, we're going to have to give him an offensive line that can buy him enough time to do that. So we can't put him in a position to fail like the Aggies sometimes did. So yeah, like I say he's got the build, he's got the temperament. Like I say, the fumbles, but he didn't lose them. Like I say, they were recovered. Yeah, like I say, and last season the turnovers they were there, but there were plenty more big plays to overcome them. I think this year, if he cleans up on the interceptions, I think he could have a pretty good year. And yeah, in the new era of Yellow Jacket football, Haynes King might go down as the guy that set them on their way for who knows what in the next couple of years. Like I say, he's a junior now, so he could still have another year if he wanted to. Or if he has a really good year, he might think, I'll take the plunge and see if I can be a round three quarterback in the NFL. So I might like his skill sets. Yeah, he's come a long way in the last 4 years for sure.
Absolutely. And he's got a star running back. Jamal Haynes is a name you need to keep an eye out for him. What is a stacked running back? We didn't mention him, but that's just how good this class is. He really is a class apart. And I guess the question now, right, coming out of this game for both teams, Georgia Tech, I guess you keep beating the big teams in the marquee games, but now you've got to beat the guys around you. But if they do, they're in the ACC title picture. They have a signature win now. The world is their oyster if they can fix it in the small games.
Yeah, like I said, their next game is very favourable. They will be very much a favourite to go into their next game. But they can't rest on the laurels and they can't overlook their opponent because their opponent they're going to be facing, like say, Georgia State, are a lot less. Like say, don't go in there and like say, don't be too big for your bridges. Like say, otherwise, like say, you may come down with a bump. But it's a good game to clean up the things that weren't good. Like say, a couple of fumbles, some poor ball security. You can tidy those things up, and you can go out there and put on a bit of a clinic. Like say, work on some things. Like say, it's early in the season. get, like, say, Haynes' arm going because he was limited in, like, say, so there's a lot of things they can work on. But on the flip side, like, say, Florida State have got to dust themselves down, and they've got a much harder prospect coming up next. Like I say, they got the Eagles, so they, like I say, BC will look at this and think a team that's licking their wounds and can't afford to lose 2 games in a row, or their playoff hopes are literally already in tatters, and they will be with two if they were to lose their 2 opening games. BC will be like, we like that. That works for us. We can go out there and cause some pressure. But yeah, they have got to find a way next week to start, not start running. They ran the ball well, but they need to find a way to get that consistently through a whole game. Like you say, not let a defense adjust too quickly and nullify that run game because DJ's a great quarterback, but he didn't get much help in that second half, much time in the pocket. So yeah, there's things they need to work on. But yeah, you are they on upset alert? I don't, maybe, yeah. Like you say, you look at BC and you think like that's not a good game, a bounce back game. Like I said, that could be tricky for them possibly.
I mean, you're right. So they get an extra day off this week, though. They get an extra day off. But Boston College should have beaten them last year. Should have beaten the playoff team. It was what, 220 yards worth of penalties that screwed Boston College. Like that was just an inordinate amount of day. They should have won, and they're better now. Castellanos still there. Offensive line getting better. Defense getting better. Star edge rusher. I mean, this you're right. It's weird to open up with 2 ACC games, but one more loss, they're pretty much I'm not out of the title picture, but they've got to run the table then. They've got to run over everybody and anything. What is your level of concern for them? Because on the flip side, we have to take into account they've lost a lot. Like the reason why everyone was so high on them 12 months ago is because they brought back their entire team pretty much. They lost next to nobody last year, and that helps you start off quick, being top of the opposition, great. But this year, they've lost a lot of players, and they're having to integrate new players in. And like say, it felt sluggish, like a lot of new players coming in trying to get to grips with one another. But like say, Boston College is not easy next week, and they've got to get there quick. Is your level of concern high, or is it more just rust for you, and you think they'll be all right?
I think they'll be fine. I think it's growing pains, as you say. It's losses. It's bringing in a quarterback that is now learning his second system in 2 years. So that unsettles a guy. I thought DJ would start slowly, like I say, but I expect him to grow in. I think this week it's win, and no matter, even if it's ugly against BC, just make sure you win. Like I say, that's all that matters. It won't matter about the performance. Just get to 1-on-1. I think that's what I'll tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. Brent makes a good point. Megatron and Gibbs had to enjoy that game. Of course, they're very prominent former Georgia Tech players as well. He says, have we got any other former GT players? I can't think off the top of my head if we have any more GT players currently. I'll probably have to look through the roster for that. I would not envisage so, but I could be wrong. And he goes, GT ACC title, possible, but a tough road. It's very tough. You've still got Clemson, NC State, UNC, Miami of Florida. It is actually, if you lose one, it's very tough because there's a lot of other teams in there who could potentially go and win it as well. So, as Ryan said, we've got to hit the brakes right now because Georgia Tech traditionally, like I say, 5 ranked wins against ACT. They're 5 for 5 against ranked ACC teams. But then they'll go and lose to someone like, I don't know, Syracuse, and then it just sort of blows it out the window. So if they can get some wins consistently, then maybe we can get on that train. But fantastic for Georgia Tech. Wonderful performance. For Florida State, you've got to dust yourselves off quick because you've got Boston College coming, and they will not be easy. At least, though, for them, it is in Tallahassee. So hopefully, home advantage for them. But yes, well done, Yellow Jackets. Mike the Marine's in the building. Hope you are doing well, Mike. Howdy to you there. Let's move it on to some of the other games that we had on the docket. And the first one we're going to come to was nearly one of the biggest upsets of the weekend, all told. And we've got Power Four versus Group of Five here. The SMU Mustangs, new to the ACC. Technically, they've just come out of the Group of Five themselves from the American, but they are now an ACC team. They're going to be going in there, and and they've got an 8.5 over under on wins this year. So people think very highly of this team. Traveling to a Nevada team who have been predicted to finish smack bang bottom of the Mountain West. So on paper, complete and utter mismatch here. And SMU favored by, I think it was 32 points. Minimum 30 points. It was definitely 30. I think, though, it ended up being at 32. So the ACC newcomers against the bottom of the Mountain West, but you would not have guessed it. So both teams trading shots in a very equal first quarter, but it was the underdogs who struck with 1 minute left to go in the first quarter when quarterback Brendan Lewis found his tight end Jace Henry, who did an assisted swan dive into the end zone to put Nevada up by a score 7-0. SMU did hit straight back on the next drive. LJ Johnson Jr., the running back, running in from 1 yard out to make it 7-all. And then this was a game of attrition. Went back to it again. Second quarter, they trade field goals, makes it 10 apiece before Nevada strike right before the half. So Brendan Lewis again, a really lovely spiral pass to Cortez Braham, the junior, and the Wolfpack go into the half 17-10 in the lead. Coming out of the half, SMU hit back with an opening drive field goal in the third to make it 17-13. But again, Nevada keep up the even fight, and with 3 minutes left in the third, they get another touchdown, courtesy of a Savion Red rushing touchdown from 1 yard out after a very impressively long drive from them. Makes it 24-13 to the underdogs, and then they're able to hold on till 8 minutes left in the game until SMU finally break them open. There's a 4 yard touchdown run from Brashard Smith. And then things really start to go wrong for them when it's 24-20. So the Nevada kickoff returner, he calls for a fair catch in his own end zone. He muffs it, has to recover it at his own 1 yard line, puts his knee down. So that's where the drive has to start, from the 1 yard line. And then Nevada, for some inexplicable reason, call a shotgun run from way in their own end zone, and the SMU defensive end Jafari Harvey lights up the poor running back, who is still several yards back in his end zone, to force the most unnecessary safety ever, reducing the gap to 24-22. And then, of course, Nevada, as a result of the safety, have to punt it, and they give it straight back to SMU. So from being 11 points up within a minute, they're down to a 2 point lead with all, and SMU have the ball back. SMU takes 6 minutes off the clock from that point, and then a piece of game-winning magic from Preston Stone, the quarterback. He launches a 34-yard precision bomb to RJ Maryland, who busts open the coverage, takes the catch in the end zone to put SMU 29-24 up, and Nevada, with just 1 minute and no timeouts left, are unable to muster up one last rally, and SMU sneak away with the win to start the season. And just to put into perspective how bad a game they had, SMU lost the time of possession battle 36 minutes to 24. They committed 11 penalties for 125 yards, and they went 5 of 13 on third and fourth downs. But Ryan, a win is a win. They are going to need to be a hell of a lot better going into the ACC season. And this was maybe more, actually, Nevada are not as bad as people have said they are, rather than SMU being bad. But this was nearly a massive upset. This was a 30-point favorite, and Nevada made them work every inch of the way. But mistakes cost them what could have been a famous win.
Yeah, they were close to what would have been a fantastic upset to start the season. I find the money lines very odd because when you look at what happened last year, Preston Stone, let's say a game or two left in the season, a horrible leg break, surgery, recuperating, rehabbing all year. He looked like a guy that's coming off a broken leg. He looked rusty. Like say, the accuracy wasn't there. He struggled. So I'm not sure why they were such heavy favourites in the beginning with, if I'm honest. because I thought it was going to start slowly. It was one of the best QBs in the nation. They will get better, yeah. It's just, it's one of those, it's the age-old question, isn't it? Is momentum a real thing? And we've seen it is, yeah. Like the returner. I mean, if you're in your own end zone, just let the ball go out and see if you get a touchback. Like say, or if you call for a fair catch, make sure you get it. And then if it's at the one, like say, sometimes like say, maybe just bat it away and take the safety. Don't even try to recover it because, like I said, getting it out to just for the one was terrible. That's probably the worst possible outcome. Then the safety, then you're backed all the way out to punt it. So when you do get out the end zone, you catch it at what, midfield? Like say like and then they're literally in your half to start the next drive. So safeties usually end up in 9 points than two because then you always end up giving it away and they're always in your own half. So yeah, SMU were poor, but some very poor choice, some sloppy mistakes from Nevada. Just yeah, they kind of gifted them in the win in the end, and a bit more discipline on the day, a little more. I suppose luck goes into it as well. The Wolfpack would be coming away with a massive victory. SMU limp away with their tails between their legs, still unbeaten. But yeah, I imagine the coach probably had a few choice words on the bus home because it was not a good performance. They were undisciplined. It was sloppy. And realistically, Preston Stone, well, RJ Maryland kind of just put the team on his back with a stellar 20.3 average per catch. Him and Preston Stone have to do some tough sledding this year, put it on the back. But yeah, they survive, and that's usually what matters in week zero. But yeah, Nevada, don't overlook them. We saw glimpses of some potential that can cause an upset this year, and I think it's just maybe a bit of nerves, like say, came into that opening day loss. But yeah, SMU joining, like say, a new conference, that's not going to strike any fear in the heart of your rivals, is it? Seeing that, like say, so they have to shape up and quick.
You're right. Yeah, RJ Maryland, probably the guy who did it. 8 catches, 162 yards, and his game-winning touchdown at the end, which he just kind of blew the coverage apart. And it was a really good throw, but you SMU, it's always been a problem, hasn't it? You go back to the Tanner Mordecai days, you throw the ball a lot, you don't run the ball a lot. 408 yards of offense from them to only 300 for Nevada. So Nevada did well to sort of kind of keep them down, but 308 of them passing yards, only 100 on the ground. It's when it comes to ACC, that's not gonna quite cut it. The air raid won't work. We've seen with UNC, they like to throw the ball, and they do run the ball to their credit. But if you're going to win the ACC, you've got to run the ball well, and they've not done that, and that still seems to be an issue for them. And this is against a low group of five opponent.
Yeah, if they come up against a Florida State D line or a Louisville like Ashton Gillott, and they can get to Preston Stone and they can make him throw the ball away. SMU, from what I can see, still does not have a plan B, and they will lose, and their passing game will fail, and they will fall flat on their face.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the flip side, for Nevada, maybe not going to be a bad year. 150 yards on the ground against Power Four opposition, and they've always been a high level group of five team, so they're still a decent standard of
It's
opponent.
a tough schedule,
They
isn't it? Oof,
It's
wow.
a very tough schedule for them, but they might not just be the low-hanging fruit people think. There could be a few wins in here. Maybe not bowl wins, but 4, 5.
There's a chance for some big upsets because they've got
Yeah,
some big opponents coming up.
exactly. So, we look for the positives for all teams. And for SMU, a win is a win. They go away. That's one towards their 8.5 total for the year. They're going to have to get a lot better, but they did come back from 2 scores down on the road, which is fair. And for Nevada, they gave a good team a really good game, and I like the look of what I saw from them. They've just got to cut out those sloppy mistakes and some of those really bad play calls. Right, let's move her on, and we're gonna move now into the HBCUs because this provided one of the most fun games of the weekend. And if, me and Ryan for 3 years now have covered the HBCUs, and there's a reason we do that because there are a lot of talented players in the ranks on these teams. And this was one of the funnest games of the weekend. Again, this was a big, overwhelming favorite coming up against an underdog. So we had Dawson Odom's Norfolk State Spartans taking on James Colsey III's A&M Rattlers, and the Rattlers were 21.5 point favorites in this game. Obviously, when we do talk about HBCUs, we talk about the Rattlers a lot. These guys send people to the draft who have draft consideration, who make UDFA lists more so than a lot of the other HBCU schools. But it was Norfolk State who came out swinging in this one. So on the opening drive, they had a 3rd and 1. They run a trap play, which springs their running back, Kevon King. He hits a hole in the middle of the line, turns on the nitro to burst through 2 closing in DBs, takes the ball 82 yards to the house. So an early touchdown lead for Norfolk State, and A&M just looked really, really sluggish. Obviously, new quarterback there this year, a lot of new players. They did lose quite a bit of talent. And Norfolk State continued to run the ball on them on their next drive. They convert a 3rd and 12 on the ground. And at one point, towards the end of the first quarter, they were averaging 16 yards per carry. And the end of the second drive ends with Jalen Daniels finishing off from the 1 yard line. It's another scrum push over the line. Norfolk State find themselves 14-0 up and in control of this one early. But then the Rattlers, as champions do, as good teams do, wake up, and their quarterback, Daniel Richardson, so he's the FAU transfer. This was a massive get for them. He looks and feels like a running back, but he's a really good quarterback. He gets them going, a big run for himself. Then there's a big completion to Kobe Gross down the sideline, and then a beautifully weighted touchdown pass from 20 yards to Tad Franklin Jr. sparks the Rattlers into life. They halve the deficit. It's 14-7. Then A&M are able to stop State on their next drive, finally make some progress against the run. And then on the punt return, Jamari Gassett, who had a day and a half, takes it all the way from deep back in A&M's half, all the way up into State's half. Then Richardson hits a 30-yarder to him. They're only able to make the 18, though. So Cameron Gillis, the field goal kicker, comes on, makes it 14-10. Norfolk State then completely screw up a field goal try of their own from 35 on the next drive. Apparently, they've had a lot of problems in training camp with their snapping, which, Matt would love because he loves his long snapper chat. So they end up, despite having probably the best of the first half, 14-10. And then A&M show up in the second half. Not a long, sort of a 2.5 minute drive from them to open it up. But Daniel Richardson again finding Jamari Gassett, who just has himself an absolute day and a half, goes out 55-yard pass completion from him in for a touchdown. Florida and A&M take their first lead of the game. Now, Norfolk State don't lie down, to their credit. Another sort of really tough, hard drive from them. They're not able to break all the way through, but they are able to give their field goal kicker, Grandin Wilcox, a simple chip shot from 29 yards out to even up the scores. But A&M, they're in their groove at this point. Daniel Richardson, Jamari Gassett, the running back room, all in sync with one another. And with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, Gassett gets his second touchdown pass of the day, just from a meager 9 yards this time. But Daniel Richardson finds it. Cameron Gillis kicks it, and it's a 7-point game. And then it turns into a little bit of a slugfest. Both teams' defenses really coming out on top, making stops, getting punts away. But Norfolk State still refused to lie down. And this is where the game gets really fun with 6.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Norfolk State get their touchdown. Their run game comes back to life again briefly. Kevon King runs it in from 2 yards out. And then you have this really interesting period of play where the field goal attempt to level it up is blocked. But then Florida and A&M's defense gets pinged for a penalty. which moves the ball up to the one. And Norfolk State think, hang on, you know what? Actually, we're going to go for it and we're going to go for the lead. So they have this 2-point conversion, but they sort of slightly botch it. And the quarterback gets nailed by one of the A&M linebackers, I think it is. And the 2-point conversion fails. So it's a 24-23 game. And unfortunately for Norfolk State, they don't get the ball back after that happens. Florida A&M are able to put together this drive. It's a really good drive. They have to fight for every yard, but they're able to just keep getting the first downs when they need to. And that decision to not go for the extra point to level it up to take it to extras, they were brave. They went for it as underdogs. It didn't quite pay off. But Ryan, we talk about it to death. We love watching the HBCUs, and this was a game and a half, a 21-point favorite who kind of what Georgia Tech did, kicked their ass in the trenches and made life really difficult for them. But unfortunately, Daniel Richardson, he's a bloody good quarterback who's come down from the FBS. A really good get for them. Star receiver on the day, makes some big plays. And A&M, they do what big teams do. They find a way to win in the hardest of circumstances. But I mean, this was a great spectacle.
Yeah, like I say, on paper, a lot thought this should be a bit of a cakewalk for Florida A&M. A lot thought the Rattlers should win this game very comfortably, but Norfolk didn't turn up to just make up the numbers. They came to win. And yeah, good teams make big plays, and on the downs where it count, down and distance where it counts, they make things happen. And I fully respect their decision. I would have gone for 2 points as well. Let's win this game here and now. You don't play for overtime. Not in grown man football. Like I say, they didn't get it. Like I say, the player never really got a chance to develop because yeah, it was a bit of a mess. It was sloppy and it stubbed out and they don't get the ball back. But that's fine. You can live with those decisions because you tried to go and win the game. And they played a really good game. It was a tale of two halves. Norfolk State started hot. They applied the pressure, 2 scores up, going to the half, feeling pretty good about themselves with a lead. I imagine the Florida A&M head coach had some choice words at halftime. Like say they started sloppy, they looked slow, they looked like say that they started too long to get going, but they came out at half hot. Like say Richardson, the old Chipper was star quarterback, wasn't he? He was really good for CMU, and then he kind of like disappeared for a year or two. Like I say, now he's re-emerged here. Like I say, and good pickup for them. Great opening day for him. I think he'll be massive at this level. I think he'll think he should know he's going to put on a show at this level. He's going to go out there and he's going to put on some dazzling displays. But yeah, him and like say Gassett are going to have a great connection this year. You just feel like they're going to put up some pretty big numbers between them. And then the defense came up clutch in big moments where it mattered. And in the end, wasn't pretty. But those teams that kind of, they win championships, they win titles, they kind of know how to squeak one over, don't they, and get out of the line. And when you get the ball back and you can't give it back to a defense, you find a way to milk every second of the clock until it's your hand that's being raised as the winner. So yeah, in the end, it was a professional job and got it done.
Yeah, I mean, Richardson, great day for him. 22 of 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. He had 3 rushes for 32 yards as well, including the big one that kind of got their effort going. I don't know about you. This is going to be a really niche football soccer joke that no one will get over there. He looks like Adiak in Fenway. Do you remember like big, muscly, bound dude, like
Short but stocky, yeah,
short,
short but
stocky,
super
looks
wide.
like a fucking weightlifter, but he moves so quickly, and he's got a deceptively good arm in it. They took him to FAU, and then they brought in the other starter from I can never remember where. They put him in a really competitive room there. I think they gave him the starting job and then pulled the rug out from under him. But he looks like he's going to be amazing. Gassett, he is a name to watch out for in HBCU circles this year. 8 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also busted out a really big punt return as well, which gave them the momentum back after their first touchdown. He did really well on the day. They didn't really rush for that much. They rushed for about 110 yards, but nothing major there. Norfolk State, this was a really good game from the Kevin King, their running back. 14 carries, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns, although one of them was an 80-yarder, so that'll bring his 10.4 yard average down a bit. Jalen Daniels, the quarterback, just 7 of 9. but 142 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But this was just a really clean game. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our good friend Gerald will have enjoyed this spectacle as well. But yeah, well done to the A&M Rattlers. Commiserations to the Norfolk State Spartans, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching this game of football. So thank you very much for that. Right, we've got three more games to go down now. Now we'll go to the one game where there wasn't really an upset per se. This is the one that probably went most normal, although for a little bit of time it did look a bit weird. We got the reason for week zero. They're the team who always play week zero because everyone else has to play week zero because they're going to go and see them. The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors taking on the Delaware State Hornets from the FCS. Delaware State, bless them, they had such problems getting travel over there. I think they had to travel on 7 different flights by the time everything was said and done, but they put an extra game on for the day. So they were rested up. And in fairness to them, they gave their FBS opponents a good run for their money. Hawaii really went after it quick in this. So Braden Shaker, of course, back after leaving the transfer portal when we thought he was going to go elsewhere. He, within 6 minutes of the game, threw a touchdown pass to Tamatoa Mokiao Athimalala from 11 yards out, 7-0 to Hawaii. And then special teams, baby, punt return touchdown to end the first quarter, what with 10 seconds left. Tylen Hines, a 44-yard punt return touchdown, was not a very good kick from the Delaware State kicker. So Hawaii ended 14-0 up at the end of the first. But give credit to the little school at Delaware State because over the next quarter and a half, they fought their way back to parity. So the second quarter was really, really messy, a lot of bad play all over the place. But with 12 seconds left, Delaware State put themselves a drive together and very bravely, which could have been the last play of the half, they had a touchdown run from 10 yards out, and Marquis Adams took the ball over to give them a touchdown right before the half, going 14-7 down. And then you can see what it meant to them. They came out with the momentum in the second half, and less than 4 minutes in, they get the tie-in touchdown. Jaden Sutton, 6-yard run out from them with 11 minutes left in the third quarter to bring this up to 14 apiece, and maybe Hawaii fans starting to fear the worst. But thankfully for them, the team seemed to snap out of whatever little funk they were in. 4 minutes later, Braden Shager, the quarterback, 15 yards, touchdown run, which they were able to convert to put them a score up. And then Delaware State really didn't get a look in after this. Opening of the fourth quarter, Braden Shager, another touchdown pass to Kill Crowders, 29 yards away to put them 2 scores up. And then with three and a half minutes to go, Braden Shager again with the 1-yard touchdown run to be able to put this to bed. But this was very close. Hawaii had 331 yards of offense. Delaware State 260, so only 70 yards more on the day for them. This was the Braden Shager show. 17 of 34, which is only 50%, I guess, but 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns as well. It wasn't pretty from Hawaii, but unlike a lot of other teams, they got kicked in the teeth and then were like, actually, no, we're better than you. And they managed to pull themselves away to what in the end was a comfortable victory. But Delaware State, I think, can be proud that for 3 quarters, they did give their FBS opposition a real run for their money. And after that trip out there as well, jet lagged, probably tired, was still able to go toe to toe with them.
Yeah, a very commendable effort from Delaware State. In the end, ran out of juice, I think. And yeah, I think for me, the real MVP is the Hawaii defense. 58 tackles, 5 sacks, and 11 tackles for loss. The Rainbow Warriors pitched a tent in their backfield and just camped for the whole game. And that is enough to ruin anybody's game plan. So that is probably, I'd say 60-70% of why they were able to win. Because Delaware State, yeah, for scoring and getting level, then they were able to generate nothing because they were constantly behind the chains, like I say, and the clock was constantly ticking and never on their side. So yeah, the Rainbow Warriors defense was fantastic. It made life a lot easier for the offense. Like I say, Schrager, good day running, passing. Didn't have to be overly accurate. He just didn't make any mistakes. Like I say, he picked them off and took their chances when they can. And yeah, I suppose the score seems a little unfair on Delaware State. They didn't do actually that much wrong. In the end, Hawaii just had too much to overpower them. And yeah, it was comfortable in the end. It might have not been for a half, but these are the kind of trap games that sometimes can surprise teams. So Hawaii will probably just be glad to get away with a good win. Like I say, things to work on. They're going to face much stiffer opponents, so it's always good to get that one off the board. And DSU probably won't be too bothered. Like I say, they'll take the loss, take the perks they can from it, and then apply that to their own FCS seasons. Yeah, in the end, pretty light work for the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah, Timmy Chang stands here, so that's the start of their season up and running. Obviously, UCLA are next out to the islands this coming week, so that'll be a much better indicator of where this Hawaii team is. But they got the job done when a lot of other teams didn't this week, so props to them. Still had a bit of problem running the ball, which has been their 40, but as you said, Ryan, that defense looks a hell of a lot better. And again, it is FCS opposition, but you've still got to make the plays against them, and they did. So things are looking up for Hawaii there. We got two, three more quickly. So I didn't really watch too much of this, but I know you certainly watched the end of it. This was the all FCS affair, the all Texas affair, Tarleton State and McNeese State, and just sort of really putting this one down there. Tarleton State were absolutely like rinsing this thing. They were 26-7 up by the half and looked like they were kind of cruising to a win here. But over the second half, they didn't score a single point. They were able to get two touchdowns in the fourth quarter. McNeese State were they had a field goal in the third, but you watch the end of this, right? This could have gone to overtime, but that great, wonderful comeback. No points in the second half for Tarleton State, but they still won.
Yeah, I watched this game. Like I say, it was a good rivalry. I say Tarleton State, I think, were ranked 20. I think they were ranked something like 21, like say, top of the poll. And McNeese State have actually got Cameron McDowell at quarterback, the former Montana Grizz star. And a lot of them were pretty surprised when he came to McNeese State. Like I say, a big time pickup for them. And yeah, they looked really good. Yeah, Tarleton running the show through the first half, like I say. And it was mostly it was Kayvon Britton, their little shifty running back, put him on his back and said, "Don't worry, I've got this guy's 170 yards and just 25 carries." Had a monster day, really good out the backfield. The defense for Tarleton State was really good. They went into the half really happy. But like I say, they came out, and I don't know, it felt like they looked like they thought the job were done, and it felt like they played like that, and that was disappointing to see. McNeese State, like I said, the Cowboys, they came out in the second half and they took it to them. They did really well. They moved the ball well. Like I say, their transfer McAllister came out with a massive 80-yard touchdown, catching a ball for a 64-yard pass. Like I say, he's a big pickup. I think they got in the transfer portal, Matthew McAllister. Like I say, in the end, they were made to sweat for it. And I watched it and I was so sad because, yeah, they had a field goal right at the end to take it to overtime. And like I say, it's left his foot. It was windy and it just drifted past the post. And in the end, that was all she wrote. But yeah, a really good game, a good battle. I think Tarleton State can consider themselves fairly lucky to get out of that one alive because they were almost dragged into another quarter. But yeah, McNeese, good fight, but too little, too late. The damage was all done in the first half, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was another FCS affair, the North Alabama Lions at the Southeast Missouri State Red Hawks, but that was a lot more one-sided. The Red Hawks won that 37-15. But the one I've deliberately left till the end was one of the most
Yeah, I watched this game.
fun games. I watched it from start to finish,
It was
and
messy, but it was
it
funny.
it was absolutely great. So of course we're talking about the Montana State Bobcats traveling to the New Mexico Lobos. So for those who don't know, Montana State are FCS, New Mexico are FBS. But the storyline coming into this one was the Bobcats, the FCS team, on the road were 12-point favorites for this game. And that's just now. They've not beaten an FBS team since 2005, I think they said. It's in the mid noughties somewhere. It's been a very long time since that program has won, and we kind of talked about this a little bit last week because Ryan watches the FCL and we said, is there a chance they can go there and make an upset? Well, it didn't look that way early doors. New Mexico came out like someone had insulted their mother, like with everything that had gone on. They opened up with a fumble return touchdown from 41 yards. Christian Ellis, the quarterback for Montana State, had a few little nightmares in this one, but they got the 41-yard fumble return. Then on the next drive, they were able to get a field goal. Luke Drawicki, I think his name's pronounced, hit one from 45 yards. And then to start the second quarter, Trace Brookler took in a 12-yard touchdown pass from Devin Dampier, who actually I really liked in this game. I didn't know much about him before as a quarterback, but they were 17-0 up within 17 minutes, and you're kind of thinking, oh right, they've taken this personally. This is Montana State are in a lot of bother here. But then in a 6-minute period, they fought their way back into it. So Tommy Mellott, the quarterback for Montana State, he threw a couple of touchdown passes first to Ryan Schlepp from 5 yards out, then to Ty McCulloch from 17 yards out. So in no time at all, really, it's gone from 17-0 to 17-14. But then to end the half, one of the best fake handoffs you will ever see in your life. So Devin Dampier, the quarterback for New Mexico, he sells this thing absolutely perfectly like it's a run. The running back goes to the right. The entire Montana State team goes with him. And he puts the Jets on, runs it in, and I think like one player from Montana State realizes that he's actually got the ball, but it's one of the best fake handoffs you've ever seen in your life. He takes it in. It's 24-14 at the half, and they've got the momentum back. And then you come into the third quarter, they start the second half off really well. Again, another fumble return touchdown. So Noah Avinger this time. It was so poor from Tommy Mellott, the quarterback from Montana State. He should have just thrown this thing away, but he held on to it way too long. They stripped it. They took it back. The New Mexico defense had 2 touchdowns on the day, but at this point, it's 31-14. The rest of the fourth quarter passes without points, and you're thinking, yeah, this is back to saying this should never have been made as a prediction. But then New Mexico do what New Mexico do, and they turn into a really terrible football team. And Montana State, to their credit, absolutely dominate the fourth quarter. 3 unanswered touchdowns. The first is a quarterback run from Tommy Mellott, 15 yards. And then one of the plays of the game, Adam Jones, their running back, 93 yards, he runs the ball. They just are able to bust open a hole in the New Mexico D line. He finds space, and all the safeties have come up against the run, so there is literally nobody chasing him back. 93 yards with 4 minutes to go, they're able to get it. And then on their last drive, with 10 seconds left, they're down 3 points. Scott Trey Humphrey, 4-yard run. Biggest turnaround, 17-point deficit turned around in the last 14 minutes of this game. And who knows, they didn't cover the line, Ryan, and yes, it is New Mexico, but I mean, what guts from this Bobcats team to be 17 points down on the road and to go and absolutely destroy them at home in Bronco Mildenhall's first game. You've just kind of got to give a round of applause to this game. It was tremendous. Devin Dampier was great at quarterback for New Mexico. Montana State did all this. I mean, what a game.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. Like you say, it had everything. So, fun thing. So, at kickoff, Montana State had a win probability of 100%. Within about 30 seconds, that went to New Mexico, and Montana State were not favorites to win this game until 33 seconds left in the game. Yeah, New Mexico had the ESPN win probability above 70% from kickoff until 33 seconds left in the game, and then they lost. They were never more less than 60% to favorite, like I say, and that was even times when they were behind. So even ESPN knew something. Like I say, the dodgy, the fumble turnovers, like I say, they returned 2 touchdowns, like I say, they were gifted them. everything was like in the stars and written up for New Mexico to like say win this game. But right at the end, like I say, whether they deserved it or not, the Bobcats managed to get over the line. Like I say, Tom Millott, very good quarterback. Bobcats, great team. Very well coached, like I say, in recent years have become not just contenders, like I say, but FCS national finalists, like I say, like gone on runs, like I say, they're now one of the powerhouses of football. And yeah, a very weird game of spats of patches, like I say, terrible plays, and then like I say, a 93 touchdown comes out of nowhere because, like I say, the box is just stacked, hits one hole, and like I say, he's got clean space, wins the foot race. Fantastic game, like I say, 12-point favourites and probably should have been more comfortable, and that will probably annoy them a little bit. But in the end, it is an FCS, FBS upset, I suppose. But when you look at it, it's really not, is it? Because the two teams are competing for very different things when we think about it.
I mean, it's the first win over an FBS team since the noughties. So I guess it is a big deal to them. And
Big
like this
deal,
is
like you said, but yeah, these are two programs that I suppose are going in very different directions right now, aren't they? It feels like.
oh, can you imagine being Bronco Mildenhall? You're at home, you're 17 points up, and you're thinking, oh, this is nice. Nice win to start off the season. There's going to be some hard, but we've got the FCS team. We've got them beaten. The look on his
Final minute.
face, the look on his, like that last drive, how impressive was that? They had like a minute, I think, to drive down with no, and they just, like New Mexico sat. They probably prevent. They didn't even try. And even the
Yeah. They were
commentators
happy to
who
give
were
up
New
plays and
Mexico
milk
ones,
clock, but in the
yeah,
end, like you say, yeah, they were just too
just
happy to give up plays. They just dink and
no.
dunk, like you say, and you can't let teams do that.
No. Even like the New Mexico commentators are like, what the hell are they doing? Like, stop it. You can't let them, because when you give them
Didn't
the
rush
easy
the passer, like you say, they
interceptions,
just it's like they'd resigned themselves, like they were rushing like 3 and 4 on that last drive, where realistically you send everyone because one
yeah,
negative player wins the game.
yeah,
They were scared to win
yeah.
the game and they played like it. And if you play to prevent like that, then you're more than often than not lose.
Yeah, Brent, if you can find a replay of it, do, honestly. It is an absolutely tremendous game. It's just back and forwards. It's just great. It's not the prettiest football at times, but it's effective. But, to finish it off for these two teams, so again, we always try and be nice about everyone. New Mexico, that quarterback looks damn good, Devin Dampier. Like, they may have got a piece there with their quarterback. He seems to run the ball well, sold one of the best fakes you'll ever see, passed well, looked pretty good. Seems like they may have a couple of playmakers there. Luke Wysong, the wide receiver they had, he got like 100 yards on the day, looked pretty good. It's like their defense was terrible, but at least the offense looked good. So maybe that's something for them to go on.
Yeah, some individual performances. Like I say, there's a lot to work on, a lot to clean up, but they've got some makings of some guys that maybe ought to carry on. I mean, I look at their schedule and yeah, they might not win a game, but that don't mean some of these guys can't at least go out there and put on some stellar performances and maybe be pro prospects, like you say. I think some of them probably worry more about your own individual performances than racking up wins because the schedule honestly is brutal and they
Yeah.
could get slapped about pretty much most weeks. But yeah, it's gonna be a long slog for them. Montana State,
I was about to say, where do you see their fortunes this year now? This is a good win for them,
yeah.
regardless
I
of the
look at the
opposition.
schedule and the first half of their schedule is pretty good. Oh, it's very kind to them. Like I say, back half, Idaho, Eastern Washington, Sac State, and then the end with
Ooh.
the Rumble in the Mountains or something against the Grizz last game. Like I say, it's another year where they've got to look at be a top five, 4 or 5 seed to make the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be another year. Like I said, Tommy Malott, he's running out of eligibility, so he's someone that may get looked at, like say, as a practice squad QB, a QB3 as a kind of an NFL guy. I feel like.
Oh, I don't know. It is. He just needs to learn to throw the ball away. Like he got strip sacked unnecessarily twice, but I don't care. At the end of the day, the guy won. He led a clutch drive at the end of the game. You've just got to look for the positives there. I mean, and that's week zero. For what we thought last week was going to be an ordinary slate of games, this might be my most favorite week zero in some time. Would you agree? This was Like apart from Hawaii, every single favorite got, they got a game given to them, and some of them didn't come through it, but it was incredibly fun.
Yeah, this is kind of what I want from week zero. I never want to see, I never want 5 games and see like every team win by 20, 30 points. Like that's not how it should be. This should be like say a weekend where you celebrate one little teams. I want to see a lot more FCS v FBS matchups or all FCS in week zero. Give them a nationally televised game for sure. That would be good to see because you get some really fun matchups as well.
Just a final one on that on the Montana State game. Do you know how many yards of offense they got in that game? 570.
Yep. They were
360
going
on
back a
the
lot and then going
ground.
forward a lot, but they chewed up some serious yardage.
I mean, that's again, if you're New Mexico looking at that and you're giving up nearly 600 yards to they're a good FCS team, right? But they're not North Dakota State. Is that fair to say? You,
Yeah, they're a good up and coming program.
yeah.
They've kind of been a bit of irrelevant in the past. Like I said, they've only come into fruition for the last few years.
Yeah. So this New Mexico defense is probably an early candidate for probably going to be one of the worst in the nation. At least their offense is good though, but well played to Montana State. Well played to all the teams who won, especially to Georgia Tech for their win in Ireland. Right. Let's move it on to week one. So we've had our tantalizing titillization, which is week zero. We've had a few games. This is Ryan, is where we get the big slate going forward. And as always, for those who have not been with the podcast before, don't know what we do first, because me and Ryan have a pick watch with guys in our Discord channel. We predict the outcomes of college football games throughout the season. We have 10 fixtures that I pick every week that we have to bet on. So we talk about the 10 games in question first, and we make our predictions for it, and then we'll talk about the week in general, other fixtures that are out there. Ryan, I think you finished second last year, if I remember rightly. I finished last both years because I have a lot of college knowledge, but I also am stupidly loyal to teams that don't deserve it, and I just don't listen to sense. So, but Ryan wants to go out and win this thing this year. So let's see how we do. So moving into week one, and I mean there are some again with the non-con slates. There can be a lot of games that are just one-sided affairs, and they sometimes can be a bit boring these weeks. So for these, especially for the pick watchers, it's very hard to find a lot of consistently good fixtures. But I think we've actually got a pretty good year one on our hands, and I was umming and ahhing about whether to put this one in to see whether there was going to be any anyone who bites on this fixture at all out of the 9 people doing it, but I've put it in, right? Probably one of the most talked about fixtures in the entire nation, because I think about 99% of the nation wants to see an upset here so they can go online and start throwing ridicule at this team. But of course, we are talking about the North Dakota State Bison traveling on the road to Boulder to face Deion Sanders, prime time, and his Colorado Buffaloes. Obviously, going into year two of the program now, with his son Shadur at the helm, looking to start his Heisman campaign in style. And on reflection of this ride, this is a David versus Goliath, I guess. Colorado now in the Big 12. They've got a lot of fanfare behind them, a lot of hype. They got one of the biggest recruiting hits in the nation with Jordan Seaton, the massive left tackle who's going to be on that offensive line. But you look at this, and what was Colorado's problem last year? Trenches, both sides of the ball. They can't run it. They couldn't stop the run, which ultimately put all Shador's yards into the useless category after teams figured them out early. And you know, you're an FCS guy, and you know that North Dakota State, their bread and butter, running the football. This is what they're built for. They're built for trench warfare out there, and that's how they've won so many FCS titles. But for the first time in 22 years, is it, they have an offensive head coach. Tim Polasek is the new name there now. I don't know, right? How are you feeling about this one? Because I say this is, I think subconsciously all of us deep down do want North Dakota State to win, and this is no easy game for the Buffaloes because these are one of the maybe the most premier outfit in the FCS and could probably beat a lot of Group of Five teams on their day. I don't know. How are you feeling looking at North Dakota State coming into the year and what problems they can give to Colorado?
I think offensively for NDSU, it's a great matchup because they're bringing in one of the most experienced and one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the nation, in Cam Miller, who has like 24 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 years. If Colorado don't like the run game, then wait till you see a formation where you've got two running backs, a fullback, and a quarterback, and you don't know who the hell is going to run the ball. Like I said, because NDSU, like I say, they run the ball better than most teams in the country, and they don't have like one fullback. They have like four of them, and they can all. We saw Hunter Luke. He went to the draft. Like I say, they don't just get big fat guys to block and lead blockers. They get fullbacks, like I say, that can catch and run the ball. Like I said, they have multiple schemes on that offensive line, multiple personnel packages that you don't see in the FBS every day. Like I said, Colorado, Shador, Travis Hunter, yeah, they're going to hit the defense with big explosive players. This one will be a clash of styles. NDSU want to run the ball, they want to milk the clock, and they want to be able to get to the quarterback and minimize rush plays. Colorado will want to score quickly with splash plays and go after the secondary with an expansive passing off field. So this should make for a very interesting matchup. I think Colorado will win, but I think the Bison will make them work hard for it. And I think they will give them a lot of headaches on that defensive line and those backers trying to be honest and do a good job of stopping that run game. Because NDSU, any given week, 10 players might rush the ball. Like so you could see easily double-digit guys take at least one hand off, jet sweeps, carries. Like I say, it's a lot to think about. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a reason why they are a powerhouse of their football and probably better than some FBS outfits on any given day. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating matchup. Let's see how much respect Prime shows them and how much he tells their guys to not don't underestimate them. This could be like a 30-40 kind of Colorado win. And to me, that's not going to impress me. I need the Buffs to go out there and shut it down. Like I say, don't just go out there and like go into a high scoring shootout. Like I say, because that won't answer any of the critics.
All right, Shania Twain. That don't impress me much. So you've got a Colorado win, yeah. You're going with
Yeah.
the
I
the
think they'll
big
win,
team.
but I don't think they'll come out of it looking better than they do now. If anything, it could
No.
look worse.
Yeah. I think if we were talking about this being in North Dakota, I think we might be
Yeah, if
talking
this
a
was
bit
in the
different
Fargo
here.
Dome, like saying they're like little favorite ice cube, then yeah, with that crowd as well, it'd be much more interesting.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I do think Colorado are going to win this, but I'm looking forward to watching. I just hope NDSU do themselves proud. Like I say, if this is a tight, close, one possession game, I think it's going to be incredibly fun and it'll be a great advert for FCS teams. So yeah, I'm not going the upset, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people might think. I don't know what the money line is on it at the moment. I think Colorado are about
I
I
can see
think they're just
everyone
double
in
digit
the whole state,
favorites.
yeah, North and South Dakota and North Dakota, all the whole basically the entire two states have all got a chance at an FBS upset this weekend.
Yeah, we'll talk about South Dakota State later on. They're not in this one, but we'll talk about them in a bit. But yeah, if you're facing a Dakota team, it is no easy given. So we got a Colorado sweep on the opening one there. Next up, we talk about clash of styles and that, and maybe this might be as big a clash of style as any. So we've got a Power Four matchup here. We've got UNC, the North Carolina Tar Heels, on the road to the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and you know this was Minnesota was favored in this one at one point. I think the line has shifted. That UNC are 1 point favorites, but we know Minnesota, right? They're a team who they live and die by running the football. And UNC over the years, as pretty as they've been on offense, as great, dual running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, they've had a lot on there. They have really struggled on defense against both sides of the ball, against running, against passing. They've just not been able to get anything going whatsoever. But on the flip side, Minnesota do generally come out with some good defenses. Maybe not a lot of draft picks, but they're one of those tough, hard to break down Midwestern teams and they're coming into a new age now, right? They got the new quarterback who we're really high on. Of course, they're stocked at running back. They have playmakers on both sides of the ball. They have one of the best kickers in the nation. UNC are obviously sporting one of the best running backs in the entire country in Ryan Hampton. They've retooled their offense up and hopefully for the first time in forever, their defense is going to be good. But they're favored on the road, but I'm not sure. I feel like this is tough, right? This Minnesota team, I reckon they could surprise people this year if their quarterback hits and their style, they're not just run based and they give a passing threat. This could make them a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because it's two teams, like you say, that straight away want to run the ball. Like you say, Minnesota have got a great pair of backs that they can change and alternate, and then we've got one of the best running backs in the nation. So ultimately, it will come down to which QB can make the least mistakes. Someone I consider a washed-up veteran in Max Johnson that's failed at two teams already, and now UNC are hanging their hat on him. God knows why, because he's got no better options. And then the plucky Max Bromer, the New Hampshire FCS transfer, is going to literally get thrown straight into out of the frying pan and into the fire, buddy. Like say, straight into, like say, UNC rather. Is he going to sink or swim? Are they going to ask him to throw the ball loads? Probably not, because I think that'd be a silly decision to do. But if they do call upon him to make plays, can he show that he belongs at this level? So I can see this game being very fast because I see lots of run plays and I see some big explosive ones. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the fearless, lucky young kid at quarterback to make less decisions than Max Johnson, who will probably try to force it because he's in his senior year and he's run out of time. So I kind of like the Golden Gophers. Like you say, yeah, they've got a star receiver as well, the Golden Gophers. They've got a really good talent. They like their tight ends. I think PJ Flack in recent years has managed games poorly, but I feel like Minnesota might just squeak this one out. I don't expect it to be pretty because in the last couple of years, these two have not been known for playing pretty football.
I find this incredibly tough as well because, in previous years you would have said this would probably be a UNC win. But I don't know. I'm with you. Minnesota seem to have done very well in recruiting new players in who might change it up and freshen it up for a bit. Like Max Brosman's going to be better than Athan Manis. He's got to be. And if he needs to throw the ball a little, and you say they've got the star wide receiver, Christian Driver, who's the main guy there. I think it is, isn't it not?
I think
The
he's
wide
one of the
receiver
guys,
there.
yeah.
I actually didn't realize Tyler Nubin's brother plays there as well. He's a running back for them, isn't he? Jordan.
Yeah.
So if you
They've
like
got a deep rotation.
yeah, if you like Tyler Nubin as a safety prospect, his brother is playing at running back for them this
Well,
year.
ESPN have got 54.3 just in favor of UNC. So yeah, it's pretty much bang on.
See, the only thing stopping me from going with I would say they are plucky underdogs, is Amari and Hampton. This just feels like I've got him for
Give
the
him the
rushing
carry. Yeah, give
title.
him
Yeah,
25 carries. I expect him to probably win the game for them.
I've got him having the rushing title, I'm pretty sure I've got. And I just feel, like you say, Max Johnson will do just enough, but I don't think they'll need to give him a lot of carries there. It just all depends on the defense. I think this is incredibly tough to call. I'm going to go UNC because I really, really, really believe in Amari and Hampton. I feel like he's going to be, when we talk about this game next week, he's going to be the one who swung it for them. But I don't expect them to be impressive in this game. I do expect Minnesota to be very good. So we're going to have an early split. Ryan's going with Minnesota. I'm going with UNC. Next up on the docket, we've got Big 12 versus new ACC. So we've got TCU at Stanford, and TCU are heavy favorites for this game, and I feel like it's really disrespectful. I don't think Stanford football is that bad. They've got one of the best wide receivers in the country with Elik Ayamano, who's going to be an absolute stud, be it in this draft or the next, depending on how long he wants to stay there. And TCU, since that natty that they had, have not quite been the same team, and this is a very stacked Big 12. Obviously, Sonny Dykes is a really good head coach. He's going to have them ready to go for this again, right? But this is another one. I'm struggling to see. I don't think Stanford are as bad as they're made out to be, and they are at home in this one. And TCU traditionally have struggled when they've been on the road because again, they've missed their star running backs. Imani Bailey's gone. All these guys have gone to the league and done well, to be fair. Like their running backs have made an impression. Stanford don't run the ball as well, but they're generally pretty good in the passing game. They do well. I'm not sure. What are you feeling in regards to this?
Uh, See, I don't mind the TCU quarterback situation. Right, so the guy last year went good, but they've got Ken Seals Jr. now, haven't they? The Vanderbilt transfer, who always showed flashes, but it always felt like Vandy held him back. And well, we're going to find out now, aren't we? Was it
Hmm.
Ken Seals Jr. being bad, or was it Vandy holding him back? So this is a big time gig for him. I'm presuming he's going to be the starter. I've not actually seen who's been named starter, but I'd like to think his experience in the SEC will probably make it him.
Hmm.
And I look at, like, say, Stanford. Like I say, I agree, Stanford, they're not terrible. They just, in the past, have been so good. These teams just don't live anywhere up to that. And in recent years, they've just been so utterly forgettable.
Our boy years were going to be so hard to recreate when they
Yeah.
were all there. But
I'm I'm going Stanford upset
I
because, like I
think
said,
so.
I don't trust TCU in the slightest.
I think Ashton Daniels is a very good quarterback for Stanford. I think he's coming into his own. He's a young guy as well, and he's taking his licks. Again, Elikaya Mano, you saw him what he did to Colorado last year. He burst that game open and helped them win that game. Um, it's their offensive line that's been the problem. They've not been able to stop the quarterback getting hit, but I don't know about TCU too much, but their pass rush ain't been the greatest in the last few years. So I'm kind of figuring the matchups kind of work here. I'm going with Stanford as well. I think they're a good team, and I think they've got one of the best wide receivers in the nation who's going to be able to bust open, which traditionally has been a TCU defense that's been prone to air attacks. They've had some guys who stat padded, but it's because so many people throw on them. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm going for the Stanford upset. Now we get into the tranche of big teams who are all playing one another, and then this is where this week starts to get very difficult. Oh, Brent's gone with you. He's picked the Gophers as well. It's not a do or die year for PJ Brent, I don't think. I think he's still got about 30 years of his contract to go, so I don't think they're going to be paying him off anytime soon. But we're getting into the big ones here, right? Notre Dame at Texas A&M. Now, since we talked about Notre Dame and how much we love that team, obviously they've lost Charles Jagusa, the left tackle, the next presumptive star there. They're going to have to do some moving on the line. It's transfer quarterback time again, and they're coming up against the Texas A&M team, who I really, really like. Connor Weigman, for me, is a dark horse for the Heisman this year, and I think he's one of the most severely underrated quarterbacks in the entire country. Mike Elko has done a terrific job of recruiting there. You got Nick Skoughton, the star edge rusher, coming in from Purdue. You've got a really good defensive line there, and I think you've got the I know they've had a running back injury as well, but their depth is a bit deeper than Texas's, so I'm not as concerned. I genuinely feel like this is the year, and I think with a few of these teams where Texas A&M show us how good they actually are. But this Notre Dame team want to get back to the playoffs, and if they want to get back to the playoffs, they can't lose to Texas A&M because they're the fringe teams. They're going to be amongst the fringe teams who are going to want to get you in there. So this is a really big matchup first game of the year. Marcus Freeman versus new Mike Elko. How do you see this one getting on?
Uh, I'm not as high on the Aggies as you, but I think this is a massive trap game for Notre Dame. It's not a good. kind of game you want to start your season against. And I can see a Texas A&M upset. Like I say, we've seen recent years they started last year terribly, didn't they? Weren't they 0-2 or 0-3? And everyone was like
That
Marcus Freeman's a fraud.
was it. I think that was the year before. I could be wrong. They no, they started well last year and then they lost to Ohio State early on. I think game three. That's when we called them frauds. The year before that,
I
they went 0-2.
Nah, I can see them slipping up here. I can see them starting roughly. So I'm gonna go Aggies upset. And I don't think it's even that big calling it an upset. Like say the rankings like say 20-7, but they don't mean a lot to me.
I think the the key here, you need to stay away from Benjamin Morrison and Xavier Watts, right? That Notre Dame secondary is ready to be a Hoover clearing things out the sky. So you've got to run the ball well. You've got to lighten the box. You've got to give Connor Weigman the shorter to intermediate passes so he can stay away from these dangerous guys in the secondary. That's going to be the issue. And of course, they say having one of their top running backs injured doesn't help. But I just get feelings about teams. Like last year, Washington, no one was looking at Washington really for the playoffs, certainly. Got a feeling about them. Texas. They've not won the Big 12 in forever. Got a feeling about them. And my feelings generally tend to, I don't know why, pick up. So I think A&M are going to do it. And I love Connor Weigman. So I want him to do it because this will be a huge signature win for him as well. And I really like Mike Elko. This is the time I want A&M to succeed. So I'm going A&M win as well, not upset. I don't think it should be classified as one. So we are together on this one again. Brent goes Stanford over 500 this year. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about how the new teams in the ACC will fare at the end and as a question, see how we think they'll do, but potentially. Now we've got the all Florida battle. We've got the Hurricanes against the Gators. Miami of Florida, Mario Cristobal traveling two head coaches under a lot of pressure, and you feel that one more bad year for either of them is probably it. Cristobal with the Hurricanes, especially Billy Napier, it's not quite worked out for him in Florida yet, but like A&M, I'm getting Hurricanes vibes this year. I've got them winning the ACC. They had the best freshman edge in the nation last year, Ruben Bain Jr. They got Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher in their backfield with Cameron Ward leading this attack, and their offensive line got better last year. They're one of those teams who they have a load of five stars and the five stars flop and go and end somewhere irrelevant, but they seem to be getting their act together now. Florida, they're at home, they're in the swamp. They've still got Graham Mertz, who we have to say was better last year. We've kind of mocked him over the years, but he was really good in there. But they've lost Trevor Etienne. They've got to replace him. They've lost Princely Uman Malin, one of the best edge rushers in the nation, to Ole Miss, their SEC rivals. I don't know. I'm going to say straight up, I think it's going to be a Hurricanes win here. I think Cristobal has the better team, and I really want them to do well this year. But I don't know how. It's a derby, right? It's a local in-state rivalry. It's going to be fiercely fought. How do you see the Battle of Florida going?
Easy. Gators upset. Cristobal is a fraud. Cristobal can't be trusted as far as you can throw him. Florida, for me, have got no to play for this year. I think this is basically their national championship. The Hurricanes are coming in with loads of hype and momentum, which loaded roster, but I ain't buying it. Nah, I think it ends here and now. Gators shut them down in the swamp and then go on to probably suck the rest of the year anyway. Like I say, they've lost all their talent, but yeah, it would be so funny if the Gators beat Miami and then just sucked all year. It would just suck all the life out of the Miami like thing. Yeah, this I think it's a horrible game for Miami. Like I say, coming in, they're going to be right cocky. They're going to be like chirping in their faces, and like I say, Gators going to shut them up.
Right, so we're split again. You've got Florida. I've got the Hurricanes. I just think Fletcher, Martinez, Restrepo, like they've way too many playmakers, but we'll see. It'll certainly probably be a fun one. I certainly will be watching that if I get the opportunity to. So yeah, we're split on the Florida game. And then we're moving it on. Um, so we've got this 5 years ago, maybe would have been hard to predict, I guess. From what I've seen of all the others, they've gone one way. We got Clemson at Georgia. So Georgia, arguably maybe one of the best teams they've ever had so far, which might be hard to beat. They've had some pretty good ones. Carson Beck obviously wanting to go for the Heisman this year. Georgia wanting to try and retake their crown atop everything. And then you've got Clemson and Darbo Swinney and never wanting to fix his holes out the portal. This is a big year for Cade Klubnik to put up or shut up that he can be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be. No, Will Shipley, it's Phil Maffer time, and don't get me wrong, really good in his own right. And that Clemson defense is always damn good, but you kind of feel like it's maybe going to be on the field for 40 minutes in this one. So is it that good? Is there any hint of an upset here for you, Rye, in Athens, or are we just going Georgia to start off their season with a big ass win?
Oh, you could play this game on the Earth for the sun, and Clemson still won't have a chance, even if they had sunscreen on. I'm just not a K Klubnik fan. I
No,
just I just
no.
don't buy it, and that's not because I don't think he's bad. I just don't. I've never bought the hype, and I just don't think he's going to live up to it. I think Georgia will win comfortably. This just ain't the same Georgia. This just ain't the same Clemson. And I have to ask myself, like I say, if a bad year here, how hot does Swinney's seat get? Because
Yeah,
they're losing ground and they're not a threat anymore in the nation.
no. And it'll be a quality loss for the playoffs, but Clemson are used to winning national titles. They don't want to be a quality loss to anybody. They don't want quality losses. They want quality wins. I'm with you. I think Georgia win. I do see the potential for an upset here. I do. Like maybe Clemson just come out and just throw everything they've got at them. If he's aggressive in his play calling and just really tries to knock Georgia off their feet, maybe they've got half a chance. But if they play conservative, then they're done for. They're absolutely out of it. So we've got a Georgia sweep there. Brent's with me. Texas A&M wins. So of course, as always, we agree. Now the marquee game, right? This is the marquee game between two teams, new Big Ten and old SEC, but this is the battle of two backups wanting to become legit. Of course, we're talking about the USC Trojans on the road to LSU, and we have on one side of the name Miller Moss, who's he's sat patiently behind Caleb Williams, beaten out a few others to get that role, and then you've got Garrett Nussmeier for LSU, who people expect big things from, but he's had to sit and wait for his opportunity as well. And this is a big game for these two teams because it feels like whoever loses, that's a massive stain on a potential playoff record there because this is a team who's going to be there or thereabouts in addition to them. USC have just Lincoln Riley, I think he should be on a hot seat because I think he's dreadfully underachieved with the talent he had in the Pac-12 and never really got close to winning it. LSU, Brian Kelly, they've done something, but they're not getting, they want to be natty contenders. They've not made the playoffs recently. So I think this is so intriguing to start the year. Right? It feels like neither team would want this to start the year because this could really throw a spanner in the works if either team loses.
Yeah, like you say, Miller Moss, a lot of hype, but a very small sample size. Everyone thinks Garrett Nussmeier is a very capable backup to step in, but you're coming off one of the best QB seasons in recent decades behind. Like I say, you got talent over the field. You got to say Mason Taylor, a great tight end. You've still got talent receivers. You've got Harold Perkins. You've still got good line trenchmen. USC, like I say, tons of weapons. Questionable coaching, like I say. I don't know. Can you come into the SEC and the inability to still play defense seems like a recipe for disaster. Yeah, give me the Tigers. I think the LSU USC can score as many points as they want, but I don't think they can keep out enough to beat the Tigers.
I feel like this could be like an 80 or 90 point
Yeah,
game.
I see this
Like,
one being like all out carnage.
yeah, and I'm with you. I think the glaring hole is that USC, even against the likes last year, like San Jose State, got 4 passing touchdowns against them. Like you're talking about the mid-level Mountain West teams that are putting 4 passing touchdowns on you a game. That's problem. And when they came up against the better teams in the Pac-12, the defense couldn't keep them out, no matter how well Caleb Williams did, and he's not there anymore. So. I don't know much about Neusmeyer yet, but I do think, like I say, LSU have the offensive line. Their 2 tackles are both slated to be first round picks next year. I think they got one of the better centers in the nation, if I remember rightly. So I've got them winning because of their passing attack, but I think we will see an 80-90 burger. We'll see slingshots been thrown, punches been thrown, and I'm sure Brent's gone LSU as well, so Brent agrees with us. So that is, I think, a good possibility that happens, and it would be a bad start to the year for USC, who then have to go to the Big Ten and try and pick up there. We've got a couple of Group of Five, all Group of Five games now before the finale. So we got Boise State at Georgia Southern. So obviously we talked about Boise a lot. I think it was the other week because obviously Ashton Giante is there. They've got a hell of a good team. 15 players returning from that team that won the Mountain West last year. But Georgia Southern, we talked about them in the Sun Belt. They're in an incredibly tough conference. They are a battle-tested team who have the potential to cause upsets. You've got, I think they've named JC French as their quarterback this year. They finally snapped the run of transfer quarterbacks and they're going with one of their own. But obviously, a head coach who needs something to happen this year. He's been there a couple of years now from his days from the Pac-12. This is banana skin for Boise State. They didn't start well last year, but they came good when it mattered in the Mountain West. This is a tough opening road trip for them, but one that you would expect them to take care of business of. But on the day, they could very easily lose this one. Who've you got? Georgia Southern at home to Boise State.
Uh, I'll take Boise State just because I think the weapons are there for them. I
Yeah,
just think they can probably score a little bit heavier than Georgia State. Like I said, I don't overly trust them. I don't overly trust the new quarterback yet. He needs to win me over. Just give the ball to Ashton Janty and just ask the Panthers to stop him. And I don't think they will. Or they will for a bit, but they won't in the end. I think he's the kind of guy that can win this game for them.
yeah, yeah. I think the same as well. I think they've got a bit too much. They can keep the ball on the ground and they can run it. And Giante is one of the best running backs in the country. But it would be a big signature win for Clay Helton if he could get this one knocked off. It's going to be the Sun Belt is ever unforgiving. So maybe these are the kind of games you have to win to show that you're kind of serious going forward with it. But they've got a new quarterback and he's not. He's been the backup. He's not played so far. So it remains to be seen how JC French does. But hopefully he has himself a good day against Boise, but I've got them too. So we're sweeping with Boise. Now we've got Coastal Carolina at Jacksonville State. Now, I believe you had Jacksonville State in your CUSA title game. You still believe in them this year, but Coastal Cal coming into the second year of Tim Beck. They obviously Grayson McCall no longer there this year, but his backup, his long-term backup, is going to take over. He's going to know the system, and we know Coastal Cal are a very potent offense now. Maybe a clash of styles, I guess. Jackson State and Rich Rodriguez love to run the football, and they love to run it heavily. Coastal Cal always been known for slinging it out with Grayson McCall. They do run the ball a bit, but they usually sling it out. But they're changing now. The new quarterback under the helm. And Coastal Cal, generally, for their credit, are quite good against the run. I remember when they completely blanked Army at one point when they were having their really good season a couple of years ago and they gave them nothing. So This feels maybe the most competitive of these group of four, group of five ones.
Yeah, this one is two teams with what they would both consider genuine title aspirations. And
Mm.
like I say, it's one of those where you're going to learn a lot about each other, and a lot of teams are going to look at you. They're going to, they're rivals, and everyone else is going to be watching this game, like to say, to see how they do, because it's one of those where don't want to lose ground early, and there's quite a bit of bragging rights up for stakes here.
Yeah. Who have you got to win then?
I've got Jackson State,
Oh,
Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I think the starters they mean to go on.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go for Coastal Cal. I think I like Tim Beck, obviously. He's a former NC State guy. I like him for that, but I think he's putting together a good Coastal Cal team, and they will have a good chance. So we will see. And then the final one, a day later than all the others. And start as you mean to go on. We started the show with Florida State. We end the predictions with Florida State. They return to Tallahassee, licking their wounds from the Georgia Tech defeat, but no rest for the wicked because Thomas Castellanos and the Boston College Eagles are coming to town. And this is not an easy team to beat. It's not just Castellanos. They've got Kai Robichaux in the backfield. They've got the offensive line. They've got one of the best centers in the nation, son of the former Jets center long term. I can never remember his last name, but this Boston College team, like they feel like they're becoming the Boston College of old. They've got a very potent offense. It was young last year. It was making mistakes, but they were good on the line against the run. They stopped them running the ball. They've gotten better this year. I feel like this is going to be a competitive Boston College team. You've got on the edge Donovan Izzy. I can never say his name. Izzy Ruaku. We mentioned him last year. He had an all right year, but he feels primed to break out now. You've got Okpala, the other defensive end. They're going to put pressure on DJU, and they might force him in if they can stop the run and they can send the pass rush in to get him. There's certainly an opportunity for Boston College to win here, even though they're on the road. But the Seminoles are going to lick their wounds. Are they going to, are they going to bounce back here, or could this be a double whammy which could kill their season before it even begins, right?
Boston College in a low scorer. They've got nothing to lose. And Florida State, this early in the season, like say, two losses to in the ACC, that could be the thread that you pull that unravels the whole year. This is massive. Like I say, they can't open with back-to-back losses. It'd be devastating for the year and the hopes of at least getting a good seed in the playoffs. So if not, like I say, they're climbing, it's an uphill battle to make them. I'm going to take the Eagles. I just feel like they're going to look at that and go, it's a free hit. Let's go in there and just leave it all out there.
See, I'm with you. I'm going to take the Eagles as well. And why? Because I think they are a younger sending team. They've got their quarterback who's damn good. They've got the running back to supplement him. I think they've got a good enough offensive line to stand up. And we've seen this Florida State D line that was meant to be amazing with Farmer and Peyton and guys like this can be bullied. And what do Boston College do better than a lot of teams? They bully guys in their trenches. And it just, I don't know. Florida State don't feel united this year. Like last year, they felt like an unstoppable wave that no one was going to come across. But you've seen all the criticism leveled at DJU, even by Florida State fans, which I think is completely unwarranted given his first game. It feels like the cracks are beginning to appear. And if they start slow, DJU like starts slow, throws a pick, they go behind, whatever. I feel like there's an opening for Boston College to exploit. And I think they've got the players to do it. Obviously, new head coach there, but we'll see how that affects if they are disciplined. If they don't give up the stupid amount of penalties they did last year, I think they can go up and upset them. They are like 22-point underdogs as well, which I feel is very disrespectful. I think they're going to cover that line easy. So give me a Boston College upset as well. But I'll look forward to it because it's one of the later games, so we'll be able to watch that one there. So that is everything in terms of the pick watch game. So let's just go into the week in general, and I'm just going to throw it right back to you, Rye, while I check up on here. But you said your words. There's three Dakota teams playing this week, and there's the opportunity for three upsets.
The
So why don't you
Jackrabbits
tell
will
us
the
about why?
Jackrabbits should go into Oklahoma and they're gonna have fun with the Cowboys. Like I say, they're some of the cream of the crop right now, and that is a totally free hit for them. That is a game I'm gonna try to find a link for. I think they can cause actual serious headaches for the Cowboys there. Might not win, but I think they'll go in there and they'll make them work for it. And like I said, they can put points on the board. And we know for a fact, I say, Cowboys in recent years, I've seen some implosions. Like I say, I've seen games where they should have won, where they've had meltdowns.
South
Like I said,
Alabama last year,
yeah,
blown
they are
out.
prone to errors when put under pressure. So yeah, I think of all the, yeah, I think that'd be a huge upset. Like I said, I can see them, whatever the spread is, I can see them covering it, even on the road.
So you said three Dakota teams. Who's the third, and who are they against? I assume you meant
Uh,
North Dakota.
yeah, North Dakota have also got an FBS side. They've got Iowa State, which should is a
Oh,
that's going to be a really interesting game, I'd say, because Iowa State, I'd say, they have got massive expectations this year. A lot of it put on by us, but like you say, a lot of people, like you say, thinking potential Big 12 champions, like you say, and that's it could be a difficult game even at home, like you say, to take on the Fighting Hawks, who, like you said, they're quite an unpredictable side.
oh, don't take the Bectical down. I couldn't live with that if the Bectical got beaten
They got one of the
by.
best receivers in the nation as well, like Bo Belquist, like say the Fighting Hawks. He's one of like the good FCS receivers as well. They can move the ball down the field.
They've sent offensive line to the last three drafts. Am I right now? Three
Something like
drafts
that,
in a
yeah.
row, they've had an offensive lineman picked. So again, teams that like to bully. The only thing I would say here is Matt Campbell's teams also like to bully as well, and they are on the road. But so that's three Dakota teams. Do you think South Dakota
I
State are the ones likely to?
yeah, I could see a potential upset there.
Yeah, Gundy and Oklahoma State always seem to start awfully, and
Yeah.
then
And
out
their
of
quarterback
nothing,
situation,
it's not good.
it's not good, is it? Is it
It,
his son? Is it Gunnar Gundy?
no, it's Alan
Oh God, it's Alan
Bowman,
Bowman, isn't it? Yeah.
Alan Bowman, the 29-year-old or whatever.
In his like eighth year, yeah. I just feel like say, yeah, that is rife with issues. There'll be a controversy of quarterbacks there this year. At least two or three will play a game.
Oh, we'll get Coach Dan on at soon some point, Brent. I know I've been on his shows a lot, so we'll get him to come on and talk Lions at some point. I love Dan and the Duke crew on Tuesdays. In terms of any of you in the comments, are there any games you're looking out for this week? Anything specific? Maybe we should be looking out for. We're up for taking your
I mean, I've
suggestions
already looked at
this
ASU,
year.
Wyoming, going to
I
Arizona
didn't want
State,
to I didn't
Tempe.
want to ask, but
I
all
can definitely.
right.
Well, look at last year, opening game. Who was it? Northern Arizona United, and they had that sandstorm that delayed the game for like an hour. And ASU only came out and won by like 3 points. They were rattled at home. And the Wyoming Cowboys last year, they won like three or four of the last 5 games. Do you know what? Chalk me up for a Cowboys upset
Didn't one of
because
the Michigan teams slap you at Tempe last year?
yes,
So yeah,
yeah,
I guess it's possible.
EMU, like you say, Samson Evans put the game on his back and they ran through the Sun Devils. Yeah, I can give you a Wyoming upset.
Oh,
Is the 72% favorites on the ESPN scale, so it would be a massive upset by their standards.
so what else have we got? We got Missouri at home to Murray State, Utah at home to Southern Utah. I don't know much about Southern Utah, but I feel like Utah are due for an upset this year. NC State at home to the Western Carolina. Western Carolina are always a good team. They gave Arkansas trouble a
Yeah,
few
they've got
years
a powered.
back.
I think they've got a powered offense. Look at UNLV at Houston.
Ah, now that is potentially one there, right?
Houston are massive favourites.
and maybe they shouldn't be.
No, Donovan Smith's a good QB, but I'd say they're a very unpredictable side that can play very messy football.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Chalk me up for UNLV win there. I love. I mean, oh, that's actually news. Did we get whoever UNLV named as the starting quarterback? Did we ever find out? Because they've got the two. No, they've still not. They've still not declared it. So they got Hajj Malik Williams, and then they've got oh God, who's the other one?
Sluka.
Sluka. They've
Yep.
still not decided on their quarterback. That's
Do you have to announce it?
brave.
Is there a rule where you have to announce it? Can they just literally
No.
get to the? Do you think they could just get to the game and just trot him out? I suppose it
What?
keeps your team guessing, doesn't
Flip,
it, that you're
flip,
playing?
flip, flip a coin. Flip a coin.
Because they're very
Whoever.
different QBs. One wants to run and one wants to pass. So maybe
Mm,
not naming it will keep Houston on their toes.
And the go-go offense is one of the most dangerous offenses in college football. Brennan Marion is an offensive genius who's going to be at a big school
Yeah,
one
I
day
think they're going to
because of
give Cougs
how.
a lot of problems, even in Houston.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Brennan Marion is one of the best offensive coordinators in the nation. He's down in the group of five. If you're a Power Four team looking for an offensive coordinator, hire him. Um, Big story coming out going into this week. So we've got Louisiana Monroe, one of the worst teams in the FBS, at home to Jackson State, who've traditionally been a decent side. They've not been as great since Dion left, but it's the debut of one General Booty at quarterback. ULM did it. They named General Booty the quarterback there. He's got Jackson State at home, but that screams upset as well because if any team can take him down, Jackson State are no slouches on their day.
Yeah, I'll take Jackson State only because of the fact, like you say, that I know nothing about General Booty and pardon the pun, he could be ass. He has got literally so hyped up and none of it really because of his football acumen because he's currently yet to what even barely take a snap.
Mhm.
And yeah, and we know ULM, like you say, times have not been kind to them recently, and they've kind of swung for the fences, haven't they, and gone with this enigma. Is he
Yeah,
going to come in and save the day, or is he going to make them a bigger laughing stock and the butt of more jokes? Like I say, I think he's gonna get a shock to the system. I think it could give him a rude awakening in Jackson State.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do hope he does well though, just for the memes and all. Sac State, they go to San Jose State. Sac State knocked off Stanford last year. I mean, that screams possible upset as well. Like Sac State, the Hornets are they're always a unit.
Yeah, very well coached, really good team. Like I say, lost half their talent to Stanford, their coaches and everything, and then went and
Yeah.
beat them. That was one of the best storylines of the year.
No, absolutely. So always never sleep on Sac State. A couple of the potential upsets I saw this week, and they both happen on Friday. Florida Atlantic traveled to Michigan State, Jonathan Smith's first game. Western Michigan traveled to Wisconsin. And Michigan State and Wisconsin are two of those teams who they are there to be had. Do you see any legitimate threat to either one of them? Florida Atlantic potentially a good team in the American this year. And Michigan State are bringing in an entire new team with a quarterback who, for all his fanfare, has not played yet. And that team is just in free fall at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's a team that really is reeling. Like I say, they've lost loads of players to the portal. Like I say, they've had turnover at the positions. They've had a whole coaching debacle. It feels like a team that is just desperately trying to forget the past and put it behind them. And you can only do that by winning football games. So having a plucky underdog week one, sometimes you'd rather just have a tried and tested opponent that you kind of know
Mm.
what to expect. So yeah, it's not easy to prepare for. And yeah, they're under pressure. They need to win some games and win them fairly quickly.
Yeah, definitely. They be on major upset alert there. Just go through to finish off, just go through the rest of the ranked teams. Ohio State are at home to Akron. Oregon are at home to the Idaho Vandals. Texas at home to Colorado State. Alabama at home to Western Kentucky. Ole Miss at home to Furman. Penn State are on the road to West Virginia. I mean, I've pegged West Virginia to be runners up in the Big 12 this year. Michigan at home to Fresno State, Tennessee at home to Chattanooga, Kansas State at home to UT Martin, Arizona at home to New Mexico, Iowa at home to Illinois State. Any potential screaming upsets there? That doesn't feel like there is, but you
I
never
mean,
know.
no one would be surprised if Penn State lost, would they?
I would be very upset if Penn State lost because for the second year in a row I predicted them to win the damn Big Ten. So I can't have them
I
losing
think
to
West
West
Virginia
Virginia.
are a pretty heavy sleeper this year.
West Virginia have the best left tackle in the
I
country in
can see
Wyatt
West
Millam.
Virginia not challenging playoffs, but ending the year as a top 25 team in the last week. I can see them ending ranked.
West Virginia are a great team. Garrett Green is a really good quarterback. Wyatt Millam is the best left tackle in the country. Their defense is always,
Not a lot
if
of pressure on
anything,
them. Penn State, like I said, James Franklin for me is under a world of pressure.
yeah. Well, I guess we need to do coaching hot seats for you. I guess we can do that next week, maybe like coaching hot seats and that. I want us to do a frauds list this year because I feel like we need to do a frauds list because we always talk about frauds and we never get there. I mean, yeah, I'm not sensing anything else in any of those. Maybe the Vandals go and beat Oregon because Oregon are frauds this year. They're right up there. Anything else? Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt? Nah, Vandy not going to win that. Eastern Michigan at UMass. I mean, hopefully for the crate train purposes, they win there. Miami of Ohio at Northwestern. We've both picked
I
Miami of
did look
Ohio
at
to
that.
win the MAC. North,
I
but
like Northwestern and what they're
we
doing.
do
That's a
like
tricky
Northwestern.
opener.
Yeah, that I think that screams upset alert a little bit.
Yeah, because like I say, I'm Brett Gabbert. He's fit. Or should be healthy. Like you say, he'll want to come back. Like I say, last year won't kind to him, and that's a free hit for them. That game will have no standing on them winning or losing. Like I say, the conference, so they can go out there and just kind of have fun and literally just go out
Mm.
there to win. Yeah, so yeah. But Northwestern, I don't know what to expect from this year. Last year, like I said, I expected them to be really bad because things were bad, and in the end, they actually ended really well. But was it a fluke? Was it just a red herring? I suppose we'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then any others that are standing out here? Tarleton State at Baylor. A Baylor low hanging fruit. Like he's we talk about hot seats. Dave Aranda
Dave Aranda.
should be on one of the hottest of hot seats. Tarleton State for a half look good. Maybe potential upset there. Maybe not. Finish it off. UCLA at Hawaii. Can Hawaii upset them?
I think they could if their defense D line plays like that again. I could see them being, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not high on UCLA. I want last year, and I'm even less high on them now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions you want to quickly ask us before we get off air, just let us know. Granddad goes, if I lived in the area, that's amped to go watch the games at ISPAD. Yeah, I watch loads of games. It'd be nice to have someone to watch college football with. Brent goes, seems like the Mountaineers overperform every year. I never count them out of a game. Well, Neil Brown was on one of the hottest seats in the country last year, but he turned it round. So, but they are always a good team to watch, and I do expect them to do well this year. I'm still 50-50 on my Wolverines new QB1. What's your opinion on Orgy? I mean, I've not seen him. I know he's a dual threat guy, but I
Don't
don't
know
feel like I've
anything
seen
about him.
enough. No, we need to watch him first, Brent. We've not unfortunately been able to. We can't watch everybody, unfortunately. Grandizer goes University of Kentucky, go Big Blue. Great. I just realized I've completely ignored Twitch this evening. I apologize if anyone's been in Twitch listening to us. Let me just quickly check out if anyone's been in and quickly get through to you before we go off. I doubt it. Usually not too many watchers on Twitch. No, looks like we're all good in regards to that. So just in terms of next shows, so what are we on now? No football this week. So yeah, next Monday it's season predictions for the Detroit Lions. We're going to be giving our numbers. Are we going to say 17 and 0? Are we going to say 0 and 17? Or in between, who knows? Come join us for that show. That's always good fun. And I think it's going to be incredibly difficult this year. I've not started doing mine yet, but this could be this could be the hardest year of doing this so far. So come join us for season predictions then. Then, of course, me and Ryan will be back next week. Reviewing week one, obviously a lot of games to go through, so we'll pick some of our favorites, some of what's gone off there, and then of course we'll look forward to week two. That's what we're going to be doing now going forward, reviewing and previewing and talking about a little bit of news in between. As always, if you've anything you want us to research, players, position groups, anything along that lines, then just let us know and we'll do segments for you and we'll do bits. So, we appreciate you all for that. Thanks to everyone who's appreciate there. We've been asked about Hank a few times. Is Hank asleep at the minute, or is he been lazy, or?
I think he's waiting for me, and I think he's running around downstairs on his own.
Okay.
He was asleep on the bed, and I've just let him go down, so he's.
All right. We'll make sure you get a Hank appearance next week because, of course, Hank is the most popular presenter on here, despite the fact that he just sits there and looks at the camera. So, hey ho. But you will get a Hank appearance at some point soon. But thank you to everyone who's joined us. I actually need to message Matt. So we're going to. Oh, no, he's here. Thank you, Matt. So, yeah, thank you to everyone who's joined. Next show's coming. You know where to find us. Roar of the Lions UK. All over the internet, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Just type us in and you will find us. Thanks for all the kind words about the show. Really appreciate you all. And yeah, we'll see you again next week. Plenty of great college football to watch on the week coming up. Wish all your teams the best. And we'll be back next week to go through everything that's gone on. So just remains for me to thank Ryan. And we shall see you again soon. One Pride.
Recording stopped.